Hello everybody and welcome to the second part of What If Naruto Learned of His Heritage Early. I hope you like this What If also. If you want part 3, like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Third legacy, origin of legacy. Uchiha is always the source of trouble and your one trouble magnet, Naruto. To my eternal shame, it's like you and Uchiha are a match made in heaven. Kurama, Kyubi no Kitsune. Fuinjutsu was an obscure shinobi art most shinobi did not study extensively due to the research needed to master it. It was also notorious as being one of the most dangerous branches of the shinobi arts to learn. You would think an art that didn't involve physical training, but a brush, ink and paper, was not dangerous. However, it was proved throughout the years as the most accident-prone art. Those who died learning fuinjutsu didn't die in the battlefield but in their own workshop. Even a small glob of ink in the wrong place could trigger a dangerous outcome. It's understandable why the Uzumaki clan was one of the few clans specialized in it. They had both the brain and vitality to survive and master the art. The art was said to have an endless amount of possibilities, which was not a stretch of the imagination considering they could contain the most powerful creatures that ever graced Mother Earth. However, unlike the three main shinobi arts, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu, fuinjutsu was not an art you could master by forming hand seals and training your ass off. If you survived learning the art by copying what's been done before, you were nothing more than a copier and never a master. Seals were like a machine in the form of ink, thus to create a seal, practitioners had to understand each part and the correlation between them. Mathematics, chakra theory, and calligraphy were the three basic skills one should achieve first before even thinking about picking up a brush and making their first stroke. You have to master calligraphy not with flourish but with precision, not with a graceful stroke but a swift one. If a practitioner was a frontline seal master, one stroke could decide life and death. Chakra was the energy that powered every seal, thus every shinobi who learned fuinjutsu had to understand the nature of the energy. How it would move, mold, change and so on when flowing through a seal, and how chakra with a certain nature could have different results when channeled, like explode. Mathematics was an abstract study of topics encompassing quantity, structure, space, and change. This subject was essential to the array of each component of the seal down to its very location. One had to practice step by step to reach a logical conclusion. Mathematical structures were used as models of seal mechanisms. A seal master should use mathematical reasoning to provide insight or predictions about the nature of the seal they were working on. Naruto wandered to the academy library, marveling at how it became such a magical place the moment he thirsted for knowledge. He picked a few books of his desired subjects and a few extras, and began to read it one by one. The book was meant for children, which was obvious by how thin it was and how it only just covered basic material, but it still had a lot of information to memorize. Naruto had no delusions he could jam everything in his brain, so he resorted to taking notes to learn it thoroughly later, because he knew he was unwelcomed by the librarian. At this blatant display of hatred, Naruto wondered when the Chunin librarian was going to snap and throw him out of the library. Not anytime soon, hopefully, because he had no legitimate excuse to do so. So Naruto ignored the stare of the fuming librarian, determined to take notes from at least 2 books of each subject. He stopped taking notes once he reached his target goal for the day and began to read the extra book about ninja rank. As he skimmed through the Genin section and reached the Chunin section, Naruto couldn't help but frown. There were 2 ways to be promoted to Chunin, the exam and in-field promotion. Both routes required a Chunin to have at least a meager skill in leadership and tactics. He rolled his eyes to the fuming Chunin and then back to the book. How could that guy be promoted when he wasn't even being discreet with his glare? Then again, it was none of his business, Naruto thought as he stood up gathering the books to put them back onto shelves neatly. In the corner of his eyes he saw the Chunin stand up, looking torn between scolding and ignoring him. No doubt the Chunin thought he was trying to pull a prank or was going to damage the academy's precious books. Naruto swiftly left the library with a stack of notes in his backpack, allowing the Chunin to check the library thoroughly for any signs of a prank. Which, of course, was just a figment of his imagination and paranoia. Idiots, Naruto thought. If Chunin were supposed to be as good as the guidebook said, they shouldn't worry about a 6-year-old pulling a prank right under their noses. For 2 months, Chunins in charge of the academy library were terrorized not by his pranks but by his mere presence in their humble abode, Naruto narrated sarcastically in his mind as he began his routine of visiting the library after his class finished. 2 months ago he didn't even understand what sarcasm was, but that was nothing a dictionary couldn't fix. He had asked Tori to help him buy one, because he needed it to understand some big words in the fuinjutsu manuals. He would have bought it himself if he didn't have to deal with the barely suppressed hostility of the shopkeepers, but had a bad history with bookshops after one of their staff insulted him, and he pranked them as revenge. He had visited Kurama quite often, but not intentionally at first. It just so happened when he slept, he found himself in the same sewer with the bijou. He had tried anything he could think of to get in contact with Kurama on his own will, much to Kurama's ire, but his attempts had been in vain. It took 1 month for Naruto to discover how to connect with the bijou through meditation, and it had been difficult. It got easier to do with time, and now he could even stay conscious when speaking to Kurama directly from his mind, although Kurama ignored him most of the time he did. Naruto guessed that was because Kurama was someone who preferred to speak face to face. Kurama was still not the most sociable bijou, though Naruto was glad the fox could tolerate his presence at least. While he was not hospitable, Kurama was not against engaging in conversation with Naruto, and that was more than what a majority of people in Konoha had deigned to do. Much to Naruto's delight, Kurama was a fountain of knowledge, and he dared to say the bijou was even more knowledgeable than the sandaime. Kurama was an ancient creature after all, born from the hands of Rokudo Sennin himself. The bijou had also told him about the Uzumaki clan, and Naruto was very happy to know that his clan specialized in fuinjutsu. He was saddened Yuzu was no more, though. When Naruto asked how Kurama knew about the Uzumaki clan, Kurama had snorted and said, the sage of Sixth Path's wife was an Uzumaki. Originally, the Uzumaki clan descended from the Onmyoji line, and they became the first practitioners of fuinjutsu after the shinobi era began. This was why Uzumaki was said to be a distant relative of the Senju clan and the Uchihas, though it wasn't acknowledged by the Sharingan wielders for some unknown reason. With all the knowledge Kurama possessed, Naruto had to wonder why his predecessors avoided talking with the bijou casually. They don't know what they missed out on. Naruto said cheerfully when Kurama told him none of his predecessors had ever bothered to listen to him, much less his story. Naruto was very happy when Kurama didn't refuse to tell the story about the Sage of Six Paths, indulging the Jinchuriki's thirst for knowledge. Then again, after years of confinement with 2 Jinchuriki who tuned him out, Kurama could appreciate a good listener in Naruto. He was also a much better teacher in history to Naruto than the Chunin in the academy. Kurama would have raised an eyebrow if he had one. My conversation with them was never civil. In fact, he could count how many times he talked with Mito and Kushina on one paw. They never wanted to speak to him and all he had said to them were taunts in his rage. I hated them and they kept me at bay, the feeling was mutual. Naruto's eyes softened at that. I guess that means I'm special then. He grinned from ear to ear. Kurama rolled his eyes. Yes, you're the dumbest, too. Naruto guessed that was Kurama's trademark of mixed compliments and sarcasm. Now, Kurama, we're trying to fix that, okay? I suppose, Kurama grunted. Now, where was I last night? You met Kinkaku and Ginkaku and they challenged you. Naruto informed the bijou. Kurama grunted again, ah yes, those 2 annoying worms. From his short time knowing the fox, Kurama breathed out sarcasm as naturally as Naruto walked on his 2 feet. Unlike what Naruto read about Kyuubi in Konoha's history book and other sources, Kyuubi was not a mindless, evil entity bent on destroying the world. But he was definitely not a personification of goodness. Kurama was an intelligent bijou and had a scathing, sadistic personality. However, he also had a sense of fairness and sarcastic honor. The scathing and sadistic part was a bit unnerving, especially when Kurama explained what he would like to do to Madara and the Shodai for dragging him to their family feud. Thankfully, Kurama had spared him from the 2 gory details. However, it seemed Kurama hated Madara at least 3 times more than he did the Shodaime, and considering what history said about the man, Naruto had to admit that hatred was well placed. Imagine how Kurama had felt when he took a nap in his favorite dwelling only to wake up to Madara insulting and disrespecting him. The man had ranted about how Kurama's fate was as a slave for Madara's blessed eyes, and then had dragged him into a fight with the Shodaime Hokage to settle a family feud. In which said feud landed Kurama in his current position. It was the reason Kurama told Naruto to be cautious of the Uchiha, while silently lamenting about how far the fruit fell from the tree. How the stupid son of his old man procreated a clan of stuck-up jerks Kurama didn't know. As far as Kurama was concerned, the descendants of the old man's stupid son were all a source of trouble. Naruto had also asked if Kurama knew about his parents, but the fox swiftly answered that he wouldn't tell Naruto anything he did know. Kurama explained that it wasn't that he couldn't but that he shouldn't. In his opinion, people around Naruto would tell him when the time was right. It was neither Kurama's right nor duty to tell Naruto, especially since he didn't know why information about his parentage was kept secret. Kurama, however, implied it was a political reason, and as a bijou he wouldn't get involved in it. Naruto never pried about it after that. And then I spat them out. I regret not chewing them. The bijou lamented, feeling a bit ill as he recalled the brothers had eaten his gut to survive. Naruto nodded sagely. Tori always tells me to chew my food before I swallow. Naruto, they didn't give me indigestion, Kurama grumbled, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at him. Fine. They did, but that's not why I regret not chewing them. Next time I'll just have to make sure my food is dead before I swallow it. I'm sure you will. Naruto said patronizingly. Naruto started skipping his taijutsu lessons, not because he wanted to but because he was forced to. Like any other subject at the academy, the instructor always attempted to sabotage him, but in taijutsu it was not as subtle. They taught him the wrong way to stretch, even though his older classmates did it a different way. When he questioned them about it, they always said it was the correct way for a child his age. What a load of bullshit, he thought. Sparring was the worst because they always pitted him against the strongest students, and then his older classmates were given the impression that it was okay to beat him up in a spar. They were bullies and a spar was a legitimate excuse to beat someone, him, up. His grades, though, became better because he started paying attention and taking notes. He was no genius in class, but he wasn't the dead last either. They could sabotage his learning all they wanted to now, because he didn't buy their teaching anymore. Which was why they had started to sabotage his taijutsu training 3 times harder. He was, at first, clueless about the scheming behind his back, but ever since he found out about his Jinchuriki status, he did not wish to indulge them as a punching bag. Let them call him a coward or lazy to their heart's content, he could now use his time for more productive purposes. Kurama had no intentions of pampering his Jinchuriki by training him, not that the bijou could anyway considering the difference in their natures, but much to Naruto's delight, Kurama still remembered what they taught in Academy Tokushina. Apparently, the bijou had an almost photographic memory. Since Kurama was well. Kurama, all he said was, back then, they trained kids to increase their stamina and develop flexibility before teaching any taijutsu kata. That's it, go figure out the rest yourself. That was all Naruto needed to know, because he then went to the library and took notes about increasing stamina and flexibility. He wished he could have brought the book home, but the librarian was already so high-strung by his mere presence in library, and Naruto had no intentions of testing what the Chunin would do if he dared to approach the counter to check it out. Torai was exasperated by his decision to keep skipping taijutsu classes, but nothing he said could convince Naruto. The ANBU squad had witnessed what was happening, and they had to agree that class was too counterproductive to endure for attendance's sake. Naruto asked them to keep it a secret from Sandaime with the excuse of not wanting to trouble the Hokage because he looked so busy lately. They couldn't refute that since Sandaime was in a lot of political pressure lately. If Naruto could be so considerate for their Hokage, who were they to not do the same? Unfortunately, shinobi couldn't teach academy students without legal permission, but they could always give Naruto pointers and prevent him from accidentally injuring himself. Naruto was thankful for that, especially since Kurama had made it clear he didn't want to heal sprains caused by a mistake in stretching. Naruto hoped this would be the end of his problem in the academy. 1 week later. And so, that concludes the battle between the Shodai Hokage and Uchiha Madara that created the vast crater that is now known as the Valley of the End. Naruto was reciting what Kurama had said about the petty family feud he'd been dragged into, omitting some gory parts and the insults. Naruto looked up from his essay, and was greeted by the dumbstruck face of his teacher and the rest of the class. The Chunin was so pale it looked like he was going to faint. Naruto groaned inwardly. It seemed he had just flunked history class. Why did he always feel like he was walking on a tightrope in school? The Chunin was probably thinking Naruto could never write a detailed essay like that, because he hadn't lived through it. He had been so careful trying to write the essay with information that could be taken from the available history books, though he had borrowed Kurama's narrative style since the fox was such a good storyteller. Then again, the thought of Kyubi writing an essay about shot aim and Madara was absurd. Why the Chunin could ever believe that for a moment was beyond him. Kurama was right, there were too many idiots in this village. Sooner or later he would have to fake his mark in every subject. What was the point of going to school at this rate? Naruto walked out of the school with a heavy heart, and went to the forest near the Uchiha compound. His mood brightened at the sight of a gigantic oak tree, his favorite place. Kurama had told him in a disgusted tone that the tree was a historical living monument, grown by the shot aim as a sign of friendship for the Uchiha clan. If one looked closely at the peak of its trunk, a faint carving of the Uchiha and Senju crest could be seen. He liked to sleep on its thick branch, under its lush leaves. The atmosphere was soothing and it always calmed his mind. It was his favorite pastime to relax and reread his notes there. Naruto climbed the tree swiftly, using chakra so his limbs would stick to the surface. Naruto was still trying to improve his tree walking, but slow progress was better than nothing. Ha! He heaved a sigh as he pushed himself up to his favorite branch. School sucks, he grumbled under his breath as he pulled his notes from his backpack. He leaned against the trunk using his backpack as a replacement pillow. The Jinchuriki opened his fuinjutsu notebook, which was the thickest one he had compiled. He had found some samples of standard seals and was in the process of breaking it down into specific components so he could study its mechanics. It was easy to take a sample of the tags from a shop when the owner was serving another customer, and since it was drawn with normal ink and not chakra ink, it wouldn't explode. Naruto was pondering over the sample flash tag when a voice snapped him out of his thoughts. Good afternoon. He flailed his arms out, almost losing his balance, and accidentally knocked his backpack over. He quickly grabbed it, but the contents poured over the newcomer that greeted him. Naruto watched in abject horror as his history essay homework fell right above the newcomer's head. While it was just a pile of papers, the height the pile was dropped it was enough to do damage to someone's skull. The newcomer caught the book in midair calmly and without even looking, and Naruto breathed out a sigh of relief. He then gasped when he saw it was raining papers. He had accidentally knocked over the stack of notes he put beside him. Naruto would have come down in a heartbeat to retrieve his notes, but when the stranger bent over to pick up the papers, he revealed the Uchiha symbol on his back, causing him to freeze up. An Uchiha. Soon after he found out about Kyubi, Naruto had started to pick up things he hadn't noticed before. The village, or at least the shinobi population and a minority of the civilians, ostracized the Uchiha clan. It was not the outright staring or shunning they did to him, but he could tell they eyed the Uchiha clan cautiously. It was as though they thought the clan would kill them in their sleep, and it was easy to guess why. After all, it was a well-known fact Biju could only be controlled by an Uchiha, a Mokutan user, or a Jinchuriki. Which also explained why the clan avoided him like plague. In fact, he rarely saw an Uchiha walk on the same street as him. And yet this Uchiha had approached and talked to him. Was this guy crazy? No good, no good, he chanted in his mind as he sweated profusely. Why had he asked Tori and his team to leave him alone for a while? He had even promised them he wouldn't get into trouble. Then again, he had thought no one would find him here, yet this guy had walked right up to him. It took all his willpower to not just bolt and get the hell away. Naruto had nothing against the Uchiha clan personally, but Kurama's rant about how they were the harbingers of doom who wasted his old man's good gene was not helping. Kurama was also very certain that not being alert around the Dojutsu-bearing clan would kill him in the end. It was enough to put Naruto on edge whenever he spotted an Uchiha nearby. Naruto was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't notice the Uchiha was reading his history essay. The Jinchuriki blinked when he heard the sound of papers ruffling and saw that Uchiha was reading his homework. He pointed at the dark-haired Uchiha. Oi! Don't read someone else's stuff without permission. The Uchiha looked up from his reading to eye Naruto curiously. Naruto stared right back at the Uchiha. He was older than Naruto, but still a young Uchiha with onyx eyes, black hair with bangs that framed his face, and a low-tied ponytail. There was also a distinct line under each of his eyes that made him look slightly older than his age. My apologies, the Uchiha said. I'm interested in history, especially about our village, and your essay is a very interesting read. Naruto raised an eyebrow, and after a beat the Uchiha added, "It's enlightening." Naruto stared at the Uchiha in disbelief, and mentally asked his tenant, "Kurama, is this guy for real? What should I do?" "You're asking me. How should I know? My routine when I see an Uchiha is maim, kill, or eat," Kurama griped. Naruto sighed. "Advice for a human, please." Kurama groaned. "How could you run into an Uchiha here anyway?" Naruto rolled his eyes inwardly. "This forest is near their compound, although it's in another area opposite of this place." "True, but still, how likely is it that an Uchiha stumbles upon you in such a big forest?" Kurama wondered with a sigh. "Uchiha are always the source of trouble and you're one trouble magnet, Naruto. To my eternal shame, it's like you and the Uchihas are a match made in heaven." "Is this really the time to be sarcastic, Kurama?" Naruto asked internally, gritting his teeth. Naruto smiled sheepishly at the Uchiha. "Excuse me, but could you give me my essay and notes back?" The Uchiha nodded curtly and Naruto almost sighed in relief, but held his breath when the Uchiha started walking up the tree. Wah! Wait! Wait! He had thought the older boy was going to just leave his stuff on the ground and go away, not come closer. The Uchiha ignored his plea and jumped onto the branch Naruto occupied. He crouched down and then put the essay and notes in front of Naruto in a neat stack. "Here." Naruto rubbed his throbbing cranium and then looked around the surrounding area, sniffing the air. The Uchiha's lips curved up at him. "There's no one around for at least a 3-mile radius, Uzumaki Naruto-kun." Naruto took his notes and essay back hesitantly, eyes never leaving the Uchiha as he put his stuff back into his backpack. "Do I know you?" he asked. "Ah, my apologies." Again with the apologies, what a weird Uchiha, Naruto thought. "My name is Uchiha Itachi." "Great. The prodigy of the Uchiha clan himself and no one in a 3-mile radius. Wonderful." He ignored Kurama's praise about Naruto becoming a master in the art of sarcasm. Naruto was too busy wondering if the Uchiha was planning to kill him. "You know who I am, right?" "I believe I just called you by your full name, Naruto-kun," Itachi informed the Jinchuriki. Naruto's left eye twitched, and he wondered if Itachi was being sarcastic or just pointing out facts. "Right," he drawled, and then decided to bite the bullet. "Why are you talking to me, Uchiha-san?" Itachi eyed Naruto keenly, and Naruto averted his eyes. "Do I need a reason?" he asked back. "Uchiha-san," Naruto called. "I am Uzumaki Naruto, and I have seen members of your clan turn on their heels whenever I was in their vicinity." He might as well tell the prodigy he was well aware of the Uchiha clan's behavior around him. "I thought you were going to do the same." The heir of the Uchiha clan smiled at that. "You're more perceptive than the rumors state," Itachi said after a beat, "or my clan is not as subtle as I thought." A mix of both actually. Why he indulged the Uchiha by continuing on with the conversation was beyond him, but it was unlikely he would get away anytime soon. Sometimes, even ninja won't be subtle when they don't know they're being watched. "HN. I still remember you haven't answered my question about why you didn't avoid me like the rest of your clan," Naruto informed Itachi in an annoyed tone, "and I would like an answer soon." Itachi looked amused by Naruto's words. "Exception proves the rule." Naruto groaned. "Okay, seriously, what do you want, Uchiha-san?" Kurama was getting restless in his cage, screaming at his Jinchuriki to get the hell away from the bastard Uchiha. "Can I leave now?" "Why would you want to leave?" Itachi questioned back. This was getting nowhere, the prodigy was leading him on. "Your lack of answer makes me nervous." Screw subtlety, mind games weren't his forte. Itachi's lips curved up into a small smile, which caught Naruto off guard. "Would you believe me if I said I'm interested in your essay?" he asked genially, much to Naruto's shock. Naruto blinked owlishly. "My essay? What's so interesting about it?" he asked warily. "You're an active ninja, and that essay is written by an academy student." Itachi sniffed. "It's still better than what I read in standard history books. It's very detailed, too." Naruto was torn between feeling flattered someone thought his writing was good, and horrified Itachi might think he was the Kyuubi. Thank you, so. He trailed off as he fished his essay from his backpack. You want it, he offered as he handed the essay over. In the back of his mind, Kurama was rolling in his cage, laughing that Naruto thought Itachi would leave him alone if he gave the older boy his essay. Itachi blinked owlishly at the offer. Can I? Naruto nodded. It's already graded and I have another copy at home, he replied sincerely as Itachi accepted the neatly folded paper. Itachi gave him a curt nod, his eyes scanning the paper curiously. Thank you, he said as he looked up only to find Naruto had disappeared. All that was left was paper floating in front of his face. He raised an eyebrow when he read the title of it. Mathematic Application in Fuinjutsu. Itachi looked to the side and found Naruto was running like his life depended on it. Naruto was jumping through the branches and thick foliage, hoping the Uchiha was not going to. Wait, Naruto-kun. Oh shit. Naruto's mind went haywire, and Kurama jokingly chanting, "Run for your life," in the back of his mind was not helping either. Naruto moved faster, caution thrown to the wind as branches broke under his feet from the increased speed. Itachi had to take a different route than the one Naruto used because the younger destroyed it. You left something. Itachi shouted. He could go faster and simply catch the younger boy, but it was obvious Naruto was terrified of him for some reason and doing so would risk him harming Naruto accidentally. Naruto's left eye twitched violently when he heard what Itachi said. Who was going to buy that? As soon as he reached the border of the forest he shouted, "Torai!" The ANBU was almost knocked off of his feet, because the moment he appeared with Shushin, Naruto tackled him. Oof. Tori. Save me. Okay, not the smartest thing he had ever said, but he was too terrified to think otherwise. Torai raised an eyebrow at the Uchiha heir who shrugged nonchalantly. Okay. Itachi-kun, what's going on here? Itachi was a fresh chunin that had been considered for a place on his squad, so he knew who the prodigy was. I just wanted to return this to him, that's all, the Uchiha heir replied honestly, pulling out a sheet of paper with neat handwriting to show the ANBU. Torai sighed and looked at the trembling child in his arms. I feel this is a long story Hokage-sama would like to hear. The Sandaime rubbed his throbbing cranium as his eyes rested briefly on Itachi, who looked as stoic as ever, then to the ANBU squad he had assigned to guard Naruto, and lastly to Naruto who was hiding behind Tori's legs, clinging onto the ANBU's pants as though his life depended on it. It had been a while since Naruto had been reduced to that state. The last time was when the boy was 4 and had believed the orphanage matron when she'd said there was a monster under his bed. So, it's all a misunderstanding? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked as he quirked an eyebrow at the Uchiha scion. Yes, Hokage-same. Then he turned to the still-hidden Naruto and showed the boy the paper he found. And I believe this is yours, Naruto-kun. Naruto eyed the paper longingly, then looked at Tori and the Sandaime. Sandaime sighed. Itachi-kun, can you tell me the more detailed version? Because stumbling upon Naruto-kun and having a brief chat with him when he suddenly runs away doesn't explain much. He said in exasperation. Well, he had asked for a brief report. Itachi stiffened then shifted a little. Hokage-sama, I'm afraid it's not my story to tell if you want the details of our conversation. Sandaime Hokage narrowed his eyes at Itachi then at Naruto. It seemed both of them wanted to keep the conversation a secret. Very well. He pushed a small amount of chakra into a hidden seal near the window. Anything said here will not leave this room. Naruto stared at the seal that glowed briefly a moment ago. So that's how privacy seals worked. Naruto-kun, the young Jinchuriki jumped when the Uchiha called him. Do you mind if we tell Hokage-sama what happened? He asked. The young Jinchuriki flinched, wondering why Itachi even bothered to ask. He couldn't decide if the conversation was a harmless topic or not, so decided to give in and avoid suspicion. He had kept too many secrets from Sandaime Jishin anyway. I don't mind. He'd calmed down with the presence of familiar people around him. It was just he'd never been alone with a potentially hostile stranger that he knew of, which was why he panicked. Itachi smiled at that. For starters, I did stumble upon Naruto who was sitting on a branch of a gigantic oak tree in the forest. Sandaime raised an eyebrow, gigantic oak tree in the North Forest. There's such a tree. Konoha, just like her namesake, was full of lush forests, and though a majority of gigantic trees grew in Training Ground 44, some were scattered all over Konoha. Most of the tree species were pine, cedar, and yew, but never an oak. Shadame grew trees about as often as breathing, so no one ever bothered to keep track of them all. Naruto nodded as he stepped forward. Yujo no Ki, the tree Shadame gave to the Uchiha clan as a gift. A spell of silence hung in the air as all eyes stared at Naruto. Even the stoic Uchiha Itachi stared at him with no small amount of incredulity. It was Sandaime who broke the silence. There's such a tree. Naruto had a very bad feeling he had just dropped a bomb with his trivia. Neither Kurama nor Naruto knew that said tree had been forgotten about in the Nidaime's era after the relationship between the two clans became sour once again, which was why not even Sandaime knew about the tree. Never mind, Sandaime sighed. So what were you talking about? Itachi turned his focus back to the Hokage, then answered. Naruto-kun's history essay, he said as he put the folded paper on the Hokage's desk. It's very good, and he was kind enough to give it to me. Naruto shifted on his feet when Sandaime unfolded the paper and began to read his essay. It's very good as you said, Itachi-kun. Good enough to impress the Uchiha scion, Sandaime noted amusedly. Itachi had always been a highly perceptive child, wise beyond his years, and spent much of his time researching the history of the village from the writings their ancestors left behind. While the essay was good and interesting to read, Sandaime was convinced that it wasn't the content that made Itachi interested but the disturbingly detailed narrative style it was in. While everything written in the essay could be found in history books, the way Naruto narrated it made it feel like he was watching the event with his own eyes, or at least heard it from someone who experienced the battle firsthand. That didn't explain why Naruto-kun ran away from you and gave you his essay, the Hokage continued, eyeing the prodigy as he searched for a sign of dishonesty. Itachi shrugged. I think it served as a diversion for his escape. Naruto cringed at how obvious he'd been. Itachi, on the other hand, was resigned about telling the Hokage the truth. Why he ran? That's probably because he is aware of how my clan avoids him and was pretty unnerved when I approached him. Naruto flinched at the attention that centered on him. Well. I know I'm not well liked, but only Uchihas turn on their heels whenever they see me. He fidgeted. And he looked pointedly at Itachi, approached me, and he even talked to me civilly so. I was getting cautious and nervous. Sandaime and the ANBU members cringed inwardly at Naruto's innocent confession. All this time they'd been under the impression Naruto was very trusting and friendly to anyone who gave him even a shred of attention, yet it seemed they had been wrong. I'm sorry I ran away, Uchiha-san, Naruto said as he gave Itachi a low bow. I'm just not used to strangers. At least, not since he'd found out about Kurama and his status. I didn't mean to be rude. Itachi shook his head. You don't have to apologize, being vigilant and cautious are good traits for shinobi. Naruto preened under the compliment. No matter what Kurama said about Uchihas, Itachi sounded sincere. And I believe I should return this. But before that, Hokage interrupted their exchange, partially relieved the misunderstanding was solved. Can I see that paper? Naruto blanched, but there was nothing he could do. He gave Itachi a reluctant nod to hand the paper over to Sandaime. Busted. Sandaime's eyes widened when he saw what was written on the paper. It was basic research on fuinjutsu, but very elaborate and intelligible. You're learning fuinjutsu, Naruto-kun. He was definitely his parents' child, a budding fuinjutsu prodigy. Naruto nodded wordlessly. Can I see your other notes? Much to everyone's shock, Naruto backed away like a frightened rabbit and hugged his backpack protectively. Naruto-kun. Torai said worriedly. He couldn't recall Naruto being so possessive over something aside from ramen. Sarutobi Hiruzen chuckled softly. He had almost forgotten how protective and private the practitioner of the obscure art could be of their research, and how much they hated someone to take a peek at their notes. Jiraiya had almost punched him in the jaw when he insisted on peering over his disciple's shoulder when he wrote his notes out of curiosity. If the stories about what Minato and Kushina did to anyone who dared to take a peek on their notes without permission were true, Sandaime mentally noted to warn Naruto's future teammates about proper conduct of privacy for fuinjutsu practitioner. Kurama groaned in his cage as he watched his Jinchuriki's behavior. The Uzumaki always acted like mama bears protecting their cubs when it came to their research. It was an Uzumaki thing, though anyone who was taught by Uzumaki also acted like Jiraiya and Minato. Naruto was only just about to finish his research on basic study, and already he was this protective. Kurama didn't even want to know what Naruto would do if someone dared to look at his personal seal research without permission in the future. Maybe the only mistakes old man Rokudo ever did was procreating Uchiha Senju and marrying that Uzumaki woman. Naruto-kun, I will return your notes, and I will be careful with it, Sandaime promised. Naruto looked hesitant for a moment, then he gingerly approached Sandaime's desk and tiptoed to put his notes on it. Here, Ji-chan. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Sandaime smiled at the child as he carefully flipped the pages. Ooh, impressive. You're a budding prodigy in fuinjutsu, Naruto-kun. Naruto preened under the praise. Really? He beamed, giving a mental nod to Kurama when the fox reminded him to stay vigilant. You have grown to be such a knowledgeable child, Naruto. Heh. I read a lot, Naruto admitted not so modestly. Ah yes. Sandaime nodded sagely as he gave Naruto his notes back. And you even know about Yujo no Ki, something I didn't even know about. Where did you read it? Naruto froze in his tracks. Kurama, why doesn't Ji-chan know about that tree? The fox snorted, probably because peace between the Uchihas and Senjus didn't last long, so the tree, of course, was forgotten. Then what should I say? I can't tell them you told me. Naruto lamented, but Kurama didn't answer, so he was left to his own devices. Naruto smiled as he recalled what he found on the same day he climbed the tree for the first time. Heh. He rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I'm just guessing actually. Sandaime raised an eyebrow. On the top of the tree there's a carving of the Senju and Uchiha crest. Above it is Konoha's crest with the word Yujo written. And since the tree is so big, much bigger than a normal tree, so I thought only the Shodaime could grow it out. Even if the Hokage sent his ninjas out to check, the story would fit since there was such a carving. Ooh. The Sandaime nodded sagely. It seemed he was overthinking Naruto's resourcefulness. Well done, Naruto-kun. You found a precious monument, a legacy from our Shodaime. He mentally noted to issue a D rank to build a nice shiny signage and put sacred rope around the tree. Naruto smiled sheepishly. Thanks, Ji-chan, he said as he checked his notes, and then rechecked to make sure it was placed properly, blissfully unaware of the sad look on the Sandaime's face. It seemed Naruto didn't trust him. Then again, it was pretty normal for those who descended from the Uzumaki line. Sandaime sighed wearily. Naruto-kun, while it's fine to learn new things, it's frowned upon that you neglect your other subjects in school. Naruto shifted guiltily on his feet. You've skipped all your taijutsu classes, and your marks, which became better last month, have dropped again. Sandaime said wearily. What can you say in your defense? Much to Naruto's relief, Tori stepped forward. Hokage-sama, may I voice my opinion? He asked cordially. Sandaime nodded. I'm all ears, Tori. The ANBU cleared his throat. From my observations, Naruto-kun is not suited to the current curriculum of our academy, he stated sternly, and the boy stared openly at the bird-masked ANBU. Most of the classes are counterproductive to Naruto-kun's development, and the instructors are not. The ANBU trailed off, looking for a fitting word. Proficient, in dealing with a student like him. The Hokage flinched inwardly at the subtle way his ANBU phrased the predicament. Then please explain to me what kind of student Naruto-kun is, and how we should provide him with a suitable tutelage. Tori grinned under his mask. Naruto-kun is a very talented child, and if we keep him in the academy, it would just curb his potential. Then after a beat he added, Naruto-kun has shown a remarkable aptitude for fuinjutsu, a field of study that unfortunately, is not provided in the academy. And we all know what an invaluable asset a fuinjutsu practitioner is. Sandaime nodded sagely in agreement. The main defense mechanism of Konoha was the legacy of Uzumaki Mito, and she was the best practitioner in her generation. Jiraiya, Minato, and Kushina were SEAL masters and the key players in previous wars, with the first traveling to maintain their spy network and the latter's passed away. Konoha was down to mid-level practitioners who maintained Konoha's barrier and the defense mechanism Mito-sama left them. It was hard to nurture a talented SEAL master due to the high risk in learning and difficulties. Naruto-kun's potential as a fuinjutsu practitioner should be utilized. It's an asset Konoha can't afford to lose, Tori stated with conviction. That alone should give him some privilege to further his studies in SEALs and other shinobi arts. The old Hokage held back a grin. Someone deserved a promotion for exploiting a loophole so as to give Naruto his education. Konoha had given many privileges to prodigies, though most of the time it was early graduation, like the one granted to Itachi, so the prodigy could gain field experience sooner. However, in Naruto's case, he was known as a prodigy in only certain field. I see. Naruto-kun. The boy perked up at the Hokage, elated he was once again included in the conversation. You will spend the rest of this year in academy. And no more skipping classes. Naruto cringed at Sandame's warning. I will talk with the academy's instructors about your circumstances. If everything went smoothly, no instructor would refuse to help Naruto anymore. In fact, they would be eager to help, or at least neutral. By the end of the year, I would like to see progress in the shinobi arts, especially fuinjutsu. Naruto nodded again, hi. Especially fuinjutsu, the Sandame repeated. If you continue to make the same progress I have seen from your notes, you will be granted the privilege of an apprenticeship. Naruto gaped at that. Apprenticeship? What about the academy? The Hokage smiled at that. You won't be required to attend it anymore. Which would make the instructors happy that they didn't have to deal with Naruto anymore. You will be considered graduated, but you won't be granted genin status until your master deems you genin level in the shinobi arts overall. The Sandame finished his explanation, and as soon as the last word left his mouth, Naruto tackled him in a bear hug. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Naruto chanted happily, then he kissed the Sandame's cheeks fervently. I love you, Hokage Jishin. You're the best. Sandame chuckled softly as he ruffled Naruto's spiky hair. Yes, I am, but remember, it's you who has to work hard to earn these privileges. Naruto nodded enthusiastically. Of course, Ji-chan. I'll work hard, he said as he released his hug, jumping backwards to land in front of the Hokage's desk. Naruto stood suddenly and bowed to the Sandame with respect. Hokage-sama, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. I promise to dedicate myself to fuinjutsu and other shinobi arts, so that I will not betray your expectations. Sandame looked at Naruto in surprise, startled to see such a mature, eloquent speech coming from a 6-year-old kid. Even Tori looked surprised and proud under his mask, while Itachi observed his fellow prodigy attentively. The old Kage shook his head with an amused smile on his face. It seemed they had underestimated Naruto a bit too much. I'm looking forward to it, Naruto-kun. You're someone who has seen how foolish humans become when consumed by hatred. Uchiha Itachi. Naruto woke up with cold sweat drenching his whole body. He quickly gathered himself and moaned at his current state. He had to do his laundry twice a week at the rate he was using up his shirts whenever he woke up like this. He once contemplated sleeping naked, but that's not an option in autumn. It may not be as cold as winter, but it is still cold nonetheless. He knew he was still a child, and to be haunted by nightmares is normal for children like him. But Naruto wanted to act like a mature boy, since whenever he acted mature the Sandame would listen to him more, and so does the rest of his ANBU guards. All the times he acted as a brash and loud boy was simply to attract attention of villagers, but he realized that lately he cared more for the attention of the few people who acknowledged him. So telling them about his nightmare was a big no-no. Especially if there is a chance that they might think that he was not mature enough after all and therefore not ready to graduate early. No way in hell. Not to mention it was not a dream he could simply tell to anyone. The dream was always the same. Amidst the sound of rattling chains he saw a blonde baby who he recognized as himself due to the whisker-like marks on his face. He was cradled not by one but two pairs of arms, warm and loving. But there was so much blood and he cried as hard as he could to no avail as the warm cradle became colder and colder. He also saw a massive claw, one he knew so well, which belonged to Kurama. He had cried himself hoarse when he realized what he was seeing, or at least what he thought he was seeing. The scene of his parents impaled in Kurama's claw. The scene of his parents dying from Kurama, who was under someone else's control. I had parents. He whispered to himself. Anyone else would feel incredulous hearing him utter those words. Of course, everyone had parents who gave birth to them. However, to a boy who has been orphaned for so long, the concept of having loving parents was foreign. Ironically enough, Kurama seemed to understand the concept better than him, since to Kurama, the Sage of Six Paths was a father to the fox and the other bijus. Thus this dream was something he never told Kurama, and the fox never asked either. Naruto had forgiven Kurama for his parents' death, and that forgiveness was something he didn't have to say out loud. Both of them had come to an unspoken agreement of the forgiveness exchanged between them. It was mutual. Since then, academy instructors started to leave him alone, which for him was much better than the sabotage he once endured. It seemed that they really wanted him to get out of their hair as soon as possible, and Naruto wanted the same. At least for now, the academy was the least of his problems. All he needed to do was do his best to get that apprenticeship right, and he'll be out of the academy. So Naruto poured all of his efforts to do his best for the rest of the year to further his studies in every field. He really was not required to be the best in practice in other fields aside from fuinjutsu, so he could still work on his own pace in theory and focus in his chosen field. Much to Naruto's delight, the Sandaime gave him his full support, and even went as far as to give his old books for Naruto as a birthday present. Torai warned Naruto about his naturally large chakra reserves and suggested that he start to learn chakra control exercises early on, because if he didn't he would be bound to screw up in chakra-sensitive techniques. So Naruto started to squeeze in tree climbing and water walking in his already heavily packed schedule. While life was good for Naruto, he noticeably started to distance himself from his classmates. If before he kept trying to get their attention, now he was too busy with his studies that he completely neglected his already non-existent social life with his peers. It was worrying the Sandaime, but he couldn't blame Naruto for focusing in his studies. Then again, it seemed that Naruto had given up on trying to form any friendships with his classmates. All the boy could think about was getting out of the academy and fulfilling the Sandaime's expectation. Naruto still called him Ji-chan from time to time, but whenever they talked about his apprenticeship, Naruto would switch to Hokage-sama. He had no idea where Naruto learned how to act professional and awkwardly mature at times, but it was obvious that Naruto tried to adapt speaking like this with his most frequent companions, which consisted of the Hokage, the Ichiraku family, and his ANBU detail. But it was not healthy for a boy his age to only socialize with adults, and ANBU shouldn't be Naruto's most frequent companions. The Sandaime brought this topic up with the ANBU squad he assigned to protect Naruto, and thankfully they had a solution. Hopefully Naruto could bond with someone around his age before he graduated and completely cut himself off from his peers in pursuit of knowledge. Naruto was becoming too much like Orochimaru for his comfort. While the Sandaime was worrying over his non-existent social life, Naruto was over the moon with each passing week that put him closer to his dream. With his latest report to the Hokage about his studies, it was almost a sealed deal that by the end of academy year he would be introduced to a seal master to be apprenticed. Life was good, however there was one problem still hanging over his head. Namely Uchiha Itachi, the scion of Uchiha clan who had been a constant companion of his for the last few weeks. It was not like the Uchiha heir treated him badly, it was actually the opposite. Uchiha Itachi was trying to be his friend, or at least he thought that was what the older boy had been attempting in the last few weeks. Naruto eyed the Uchiha who had occupied his favorite haunt, namely the branches of the Yujo no Ki. The tree had become a sacred monument of Konoha, but the Sandaime allowed him to use the said tree, as long as he took a good care of it. The tree was so old it was imbued by Hashirama's chakra, and those who knew the man would have felt it. It was actually one of the reasons why they allowed him to use the precious monument, hoping to calm the Bijou and lessening the risk of escape. Fortunately for them it worked somewhat, but not for the reasons they suspect. Kurama didn't like the tree, but it soothed him, not because of Hashirama's chakra but because he inherited his ancestor's body. Thus to Bijou, Hashirama's tree had some sort lingering scent of their creator. Like how a child would feel safe and comforted by something with their mother's scent. Good afternoon, Uchiha-san. He rarely called someone with their proper honorifics, since to him it was a sign of unfamiliarity. He was still wary of the Uchiha, but he was willing to give Itachi the benefit of doubt. After all, it was partially thanks to Itachi that he got a chance to prove himself. Just call me Itachi, the prodigy suggested as Naruto pushed himself up to sit on the branch. You can add senpai if you insist on calling me with honorifics. Naruto nodded hesitantly, okay. Itachi senpai. For some reason he couldn't comprehend why Itachi started visiting the Uchiha no Ki around same time he did. There were not much words exchanged between them. Itachi would come out of nowhere, greet him politely, then ask about his day in the academy. Greetings he would return with a curt nod and same amount of politeness. Eventually, the Uchiha scion started bringing him treats, and not just candy kind but Japanese sweets like dango, yukin, mochi, etc. Naruto couldn't recall just when Itachi started sitting beside him in the same branch of Uchiha no Ki, eating Japanese sweets and drinking green tea. Unless Itachi was on mission, he always arrived at the same time in the afternoon at 4 p.m., and only stays for 20 minutes tops. The topics of their conversations were light and would shift from the weather to the taste of sweets and exchange of greetings. It was like they're maintaining some sort of status quo. A status quo both Naruto and Kurama were running out patience for, especially when Tori not so subtly implied that the ANBU squad allowed Itachi to keep him company whenever he visited the tree. Apparently they were worried about his lack of friends, and thought Itachi would be good for him. The Uchiha heir had a younger brother Naruto's age, and while Itachi was 4 years older than him, he too was still considered a kid like Naruto. He was also a prodigy, and they thought he could relate to Naruto. They arranged for him to have a play dates with Uchiha Itachi. Imagine that. Kurama was throwing tantrums on his cage, and demanded him to stop visiting the damn tree. Naruto pointed out they had no choice, because unless Kurama could think of a reasonable excuse to give to Tori, it would be too suspicious for someone as lonely as he was to reject company. Not to mention Naruto somewhat felt guilty for his behavior towards the young heir in their first encounter. In short, there was no way out for him but to endure the play dates. At the start of third week of their somewhat awkward afternoon routine, Naruto found the Uchiha heir waiting for him in the same branch again. As usual, the Uchiha was sitting on the branch in a lotus position, a small package of sweets and a thermos of green tea by his side. He looked as serene as ever and was patiently waiting for Naruto's arrival. It made Naruto wonder if this guy didn't have better things to do. Wasn't he a newly recruited ANBU? Then again, he was part of Tori's squad, so accompanying Naruto was probably part of his job. He could always appreciate a company, but not from an enigma like Itachi. He couldn't put a finger on what kind of person Itachi was, and he wondered if he wanted to know the Uchiha at all. Good afternoon, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded hesitantly. Itachi-senpai, were you waiting for me? He asked as he pushed himself to stand on the thick branch. Itachi nodded. Yes, I wish to speak to you. It's important. Naruto was not used to feeling surprised. He was the one who always takes everyone by surprise after all. Then again, this was the famed prodigious scion of Uchiha. He thought that he would be the one to confront Itachi to know the older boy's true objectives in approaching him, but Itachi beat him to it. What would you like to talk about? Naruto asked politely. You don't have to be so formal with me, Naruto-kun. You're even less formal with Hokage-sama than you are to me. Itachi pointed out sternly. Naruto shrugged. Fine, senpai, but I am still at a loss as to why you even want to talk with someone like me. It is someone like you that I want to talk with. Itachi replied swiftly. The Jinchuriki raised an eyebrow at Itachi. Like what? You're someone who has seen how foolish humans become when consumed by hatred. Itachi told the younger boy bluntly. Naruto's eyes went wide as he suddenly stood, and then he unconsciously took a step back from Itachi. Then he burst into a fit of laughter. Wow. Nice one, senpai. You have a flair for theatrics. Is it an Uchiha art? Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. Naruto continued to forcibly laugh. Ha 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 ha. HN. This is getting ridiculous. What this guy is up to. I heard that, this Uchiha is sharp, damn it. Kurama cursed. Don't let him to take the reins in this conversation, or better yet, ditch him. The Bijou suggested helpfully. He groaned inwardly. I will look too suspicious if I did it again. Better get him to spill now than dragging it on. Whatever, I will take a nap. Go learn how to deal with an Uchiha by yourself, but keep your head where it belongs. And with that Kurama went back to sleep, keeping an eye open just in case his Jinchuriki screwed up. Naruto snapped at the older boy, "Get to the point. Screw subtlety. Mind games are not my forte. I am 7. He shouted at Itachi, pointing an accusing finger at the Uchiha scion. "I am not playing mind games with you, Naruto-kun," Itachi assured the younger boy. Naruto slumped back to his sitting position. "Fine. I just don't have the patience for talking in circles." The young Jinchuriki stated with a huff, "Are you implying that I know why they hate me?" Now it was his turn to be as blunt as a rampaging rhino, giving the Uchiha a taste of his own medicine. Itachi's eyes widened for a moment before he schooled his stoic face back. "I see." It seemed Naruto had found out about his Jinchuriki status from some source. Then again, it was not that much a stretch of the imagination, since wherever went, whispers about demons and the Kyuubi followed the child like a plague. Naruto had an aptitude for fuinjutsu, a branch of study that requires perceptiveness, so it won't be impossible for the child to put 2 and 2 together. Especially once he learned about the applications of fuinjutsu. Sealing demons, after all, was one of the first objectives in the creation of fuinjutsu. The blonde snorted, "What did you see now, I wonder?" He gritted his teeth, "So I am right, you just wanted to confirm that." The majority of village already distrusts him. It would seem that this person was just another in that already long list. What else is new? Naruto thought sarcastically. Itachi flinched inwardly, his lips curved down. "I mean no harm, Naruto-kun," he stated sternly. "At this point you must have understood the basic theory of fuinjutsu, and villagers are never subtle to show their animosity towards you. I wanted to know what you would do about it." Naruto glared at the Uchiha heir. "If you're afraid that I am going to do something stupid as taking revenge on them, you needn't worry. Rest assured, the occasional prank is as far as I would go." He waved his hand in negative. "As far I'm concerned, hating them back is not going to make me happier." He gritted his teeth as his eyes closed. "I will just sink to their level." Itachi looked at Naruto with an unreadable expression, but there was an unmistakable spark of gratitude and admiration in his eyes. "That's very wise of you." This boy hadn't even lived through war, or witnessed countless lives lost as those left behind mourned their passing. But Naruto understood the misplaced hatred the villagers have, that they wanted someone to blame on for their loss, and he understands that returning their hatred would just make the pain last longer, and in doing so the wounds that everyone kept in their hearts would never mend. The Jinchuriki snorted, "I am no saint though, I believe life is easier when you take it in stride." He gritted his teeth, "But that doesn't change the fact that they want to make my life as miserable as they could, so I am reasonably wary of anyone who approaches me." The Chunin titled his head to the side, and then he sighed. "I hope so far I have done nothing that could make you think I hate you for your burden," he drawled calmly. Naruto shook his head. "Look, Itachi-senpai. I don't know why you keep me company for the last 2 weeks, and I am torn between being grateful and terrified of you." "But I..." Itachi opened his mouth to refute. Naruto cut him off. "No. Don't you understand? I am aware of your clan's position right now." Itachi blanched at that, "Which is why I am reasonably wary of you." Itachi paused as he contemplated Naruto's statement, and then after a beat he replied, "You're right." Naruto looked at the older boy incredulously. "You just accepted it? Just like that?" "Yes." Itachi nodded. "You're right, it's inevitable to be wary of a member of clan with a traitorous history. To be honest, I have to say that it's wise of you to be wary of us, especially because of what you hold." His blue eyes couldn't get wider as he stared at Itachi with a mix of disbelief and astonishment. He shook his head. "I can't believe you just approved of my paranoia concerning your clan, but before you get any ideas, no, I have nothing against the Uchiha clan personally. It's just..." "Could you talk with it?" Itachi asked with a voice that tinted with curiosity. Naruto glared at the Uchiha. "If I say yes, are you going to think I am possessed and report me to Hokage Jishin?" Itachi shook his head. "I remember how its chakra feels. If you're possessed, I am sure I can tell." Then after a beat he added, "I promise I will not report this conversation to Hokage-sama, unless you give me your consent." Naruto sighed in relief. "Thanks, but it's him, not it." He corrected, then he eyed Itachi, who raised an eyebrow at him cynically. "You're a shinobi and yet you tell me you will keep my secret from Ji-chan if I ask you." "Just like that?" Naruto asked in disbelief. The Uchiha nodded. You have your reasons to keep it a secret, and you have no intention to harm our village in spite of your suffering because of them. You have right to keep your secrets at least. He listed on, and then he added. I have a brother your age, just a few months older than you. Oh. What was he getting at? That night, my parents were out, and I was left behind to tend for my brother. I didn't see the Kyuubi firsthand, but I can feel his chakra. Itachi rubbed his temple as the terrible memory resurfaced. The Kyuubi's chakra was dangerous. Children were crying the moment they felt it. If Yandame-sama didn't seal him as soon as he did, the casualties wouldn't be just from ninja on the front lines, those who were already physically weak like the elders, pregnant mothers, infants. At that point they would have died just from exposure, including my brother. Itachi stood suddenly and bowed to Naruto with respect. That night, everyone was desperate to protect our village, and Konoha would have been no more if not for your sacrifice. For bearing that burden for all of us and not giving in to hatred, I can't thank you enough. That was the longest sentence Naruto ever heard from Itachi. He knew people who cared for him were grateful for his sacrifice, but Itachi was the first to honestly express that gratitude to him, to say it out loud for him. For once, someone was being plainly honest to him. Maybe Itachi really deserved that benefit of doubt. Naruto rubbed his temple, a smile painted on his lips. I guess, you're really different after all. Itachi raised an eyebrow. I will ask you one thing, and I want you to answer it honestly, Itachi-senpai. I will. Itachi vowed. Do you hate him? My tenant? Naruto asked. That was an unexpected query, and it caught him off guard. Do I hate him? Itachi echoed. He never thought Naruto would ask how he feels about the Bijou, who was also the source of the growing distrust towards his clan. To be honest, I should hate him, considering that he is the reason my clan is ostracized by our village. However, that's if he really is a natural disaster and was not controlled by my kin to attack Konoha like they suspected. Then again, in that situation the Kyuubi is enemy of Konoha. As one of her shinobi I shall protect her from him out of duty and love for the village, not because of any personal feelings such as hatred. Naruto blinked owlishly. There's nothing that could knock this guy off of his feet, huh? But his reason was more believable that way. Well, that's so rational of you, Itachi-senpai. He admitted, then called his tenant mentally. Kurama, sorry for disturbing your nap, but what do you think of him? I heard everything, and while I still don't like the Uchiha or this boy, I have to say he is a lot more logical than any Uchiha I was unfortunate enough to meet. Kurama grunted. Unfortunately for him, the village's suspicion towards his clan is not wrong. An Uchiha was the culprit who controlled me years ago. What? Naruto shouted, startling Itachi, but the older boy was calm enough not to show it. Naruto covered his mouth as he realized that he accidentally talked to Kurama out loud. Kurama. You didn't tell me that. I thought it's easy to put two and two together. I told you I was controlled. Hashirama is dead, and you know how my previous hosts treated me. Of course it's an Uchiha. Well, when you put it that way. Naruto flushed mentally, then he looked at Itachi. How the hell he was going to break it to the older boy? It seems, the villagers' suspicion towards your clan, eh? Itachi closed his eyes, gritting his teeth. So it's not misplaced. He looked at Naruto. This is actually another question I need the answer from you, Naruto-kun. I want to know if it's really someone from my clan who caused that tragedy. His gaze hardened. Could he tell you who it is? Did he recognize anything that we can use to identify the culprit? Wait. It was the first time Naruto saw Itachi on the brink of losing his composure. Give me time to talk with him, please. Itachi flinched guiltily at that as he waited for Naruto to speak again with his bijou. Kurama, do you know which Uchiha? Madara. Kyuubi spat in disgusted tone. Naruto face-palmed. Kurama, that better be not your grudge talking. Kurama groaned. Then again he had to admit his memory of that night was not the best. He was wearing a mask that only has one hole for a Sharingan eye, and was wearing black cloak. His chakra is foul and full of hatred, typical of the Uchiha. If he is not Madara, he might as well be the second coming of the bastard. Kurama muttered scornfully. Naruto nodded. He said the culprit is wearing a mask that only shows his right Sharingan eye. His chakra is full of hatred. Naruto titled his head to the side. He said it's typical for Uchiha for some reason. Itachi swallowed heavily at that, so even the Kyuubi thinks so, maybe the Uchiha really is a cursed clan. Considering his long-standing grudge against the Uchiha, you shouldn't take it too seriously. Naruto said bluntly before he could stop himself. Itachi eyed him curiously. And I mean, at least I can say that you're not a bad person, Itachi-senpai. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Itachi muttered solemnly. Naruto nodded hesitantly. You're welcome, and I guess I should start blaming this guy or something. He shook his head. I doubt he is even in the village right now, though, since my tenant would have been throwing tantrums more often if he ever feels the guy anywhere even near Konoha. And unless that guy had a legitimate reason to cause so much destruction. Naruto gave himself a mental shake. He already had enough on his plate for today, for now he had to survive and stay sane. That was a hard enough task. Itachi rubbed his throbbing cranium. There went his plan to find the culprit and hand the bastard over to Hokage-sama to regain Konoha's trust. This is so messed up. He concluded wearily. I'm starting to think that every time a truth comes up it's bound to be a mess. Naruto muttered sardonically. So, what are you going to do now that you have learned the truth you wanted, Itachi-senpai? He asked curiously. For the first time since Naruto knew Itachi Uchiha, the prodigy looked really lost. I don't know. He admitted honestly. How do you deal with this, Naruto-kun? You're asking me? Naruto asked back incredulously. I told you, I just take it all in stride, I guess, and work hard for the best. Even if the villagers don't like me any better than before, my life is starting to look up. I now have something to pursue, to live up to the legacy of my clan. Everyone I care about could be proud of the present me now that I am no longer a failure. Itachi chuckled softly at that, earning a raised eyebrow from the blonde. What's so funny? Itachi shook his head, wearing an apologetic look on his face as he realized that he might have offended the younger boy. Pardon me, but it's just, from what I gathered, you're far from being a failure, both as a human and as a Jinchuriki. He stated firmly, I haven't met any other Jinchuriki, but I have heard that those who are shunned by their people usually grow distant, uncontrollable, and are sometimes even driven to madness. I thought any info on Jinchuriki is closely guarded by each village. Naruto wondered out loud. No secret is safe in war, especially when it comes to full-scale wars like the Shinobi Wars. Itachi said solemnly. Naruto eyed Itachi skeptically. I see, so I am pretty stable by Jinchuriki standards. He asked curiously. If half of the things I heard about what other villages have to deal with their Jinchuriki are right, I have to say Konoha is very lucky to have you. Itachi said honestly. On his last mission he worked with a jounin that had a mission involving a short visit to Suna. The senior told Itachi that he had seen a boy around Naruto's age killing someone out of the blue. Nice to know I am appreciated for being sane. Naruto droned, shaking his head in disbelief. He then eyed the older boy dubiously. Itachi is holding out a hand to him, is that what I think it is? It is. Itachi said cordially, his lips curved up to a small and barely noticeable smile as Naruto accepted his hand. This is the start of a very unlikely and awkward. Naruto trailed off, but the smile on his face betrayed his feelings. Friendship. Itachi finished. But I am sure the awkwardness will wear off with time. Naruto moaned, great, do I have to deal with you rationalizing everything all the time from now on? Itachi nodded, someone has to be a voice of reason, Naruto-kun. I am sure I will appreciate that. Naruto said with a grin, ignoring Kurama, who lamented the inevitable and how they were going to regret this one day. Perhaps the Yujo no Ki was really more than just a monument, and under that tree's blessing he gained his first friend. HN. Oh. The famous HN of the Uchiha. Naruto chirped, rolling his eyes. By the way, speaking of your clan, Itachi-senpai, the Uchiha is a clan of fire breathers, right? He nodded, yes. Itachi answered. Why? Naruto grinned from ear to ear, perfect. Is there anyone in your clan that you think would volunteer to be an experimental subject? You mean, stupid enough to be a guinea pig for your demonstrations, which might involve explosions among other things? Itachi rephrased in stoic tone. Naruto's left eye twitched, and here I tried to make it sound humane. HN. The blonde Jinchuriki facepalmed, how Uchiha of you. He complimented theatrically. 3 days later. Uchiha Shisui didn't know what to think when Itachi asked for help in some sort of mock spar to demonstrate some new shinobi products. His younger cousin was a genius, and he'd also like to think himself as one, even though he may not be of Itachi's caliber, but most of the time even he couldn't understand Itachi's train of thought. Then again, his favorite cousin was just that special. Sure. He answered without second though. What kind of stuff we're going to do a demo for? High-quality seals, was Itachi's curt answer. 1 hour later, Shisui had one opinion of the tags the blonde boy generously gave him: awesome stuff. This is the fire seal ever, he exclaimed while looking at the cross-shaped burn mark on the ground. They were in training ground 22, which consisted of rocky ground that was the typical terrain found in Earth Country. Naruto stared at the Uchiha, wondering if this was a mutated Uchiha or an adopted one, judging from how un-Uchiha-like he acted. Itachi in the first glance was a typical Uchiha, though one could say that he is actually a bit off as an Uchiha. Shisui was even weirder, and so carefree. Then again, so far all his info on how Uchiha were supposedly like came from Kurama. Thanks, he said awkwardly. I am glad to hear that. Deep inside he wanted to whoop at the praise, but decided to against it in front of a stranger like Shisui. Shisui raised an eyebrow at the socially awkward child, acting mature and polite that didn't fit for someone his age. How unlike the little Sasuke, who would have been beaming with glee when praised. No wonder you're Itachi's new friend, you're as awkward as he is. Pardon me. What did you say just now? Naruto raised an eyebrow. The oldest Uchiha in vicinity stared at the blonde in disbelief, then looked at his younger cousin. What did you do, Itachi? He said, pardon me, him. A kid as old as Sasuke-chan. Itachi frowned at his cousin. Pardon me. He echoed, what makes you think it's my fault? The said cousin scoffed, well, kids Naruto-chan's age are supposed to whoop and grin when praised. Chan. Naruto drawled in an indignant tone. Itachi facepalmed while Shisui was grinning from ear to ear. The younger Uchiha could tell where his cousin's train of thought was going. Shisui was trying to get Naruto to show his real personality. Itachi knew Naruto always put his guard on whenever he meets a stranger, acting polite, stiff and distant. Unless he was pressured like what Itachi did to him, Naruto won't show even a shred of his real personality. Especially since Shisui was supposed to be Itachi's sparring partner to field test his seals, to Naruto Shisui was some just sort of business partner. Yes, Naruto-chan. Shisui was nodding sagely. You're 7, right? So you're Naruto-chan, you're even shorter than little cousin Sasuke. And here I thought he was a midget. The use of past tense wasn't lost on Naruto as the blonde boy struggled to keep his temper in check. Who did he call a midget? How dare he? Naruto roared inwardly, but all he said in reality was, I see. No, he did not see, at all. In his mindscape, Naruto was throwing a tantrum in front of Kurama's cage, much to the fox's amusement. I almost thought that you've really growing up. It's a relief to see a small insult like that could still get on your nerves so easily. Kurama. The fix opened one eye. Yeah. Do you know any methods to grow taller? He asked hopefully. I guess. Kurama answered curtly, go drink lots of dairy products and eat and high-protein stuff. As usual, Kurama opted give him advice in a single sentence and hoped his host could figure out the rest. It always worked anyway. Humph. Fine, Kurama. As he finished his mental conversation, which lasted for no longer than few seconds, Naruto turned to Itachi, raising an eyebrow, asking a silent question, how he could stand Shisui. Which was replied by a shrug by the Uchiha heir, translated as he grew used to it. Shisui's left eyebrow was twitching dangerously as he watched the silent exchange. I can't believe you, Itachi. You corrupted a kid like Naruto-chan. He shouted indignantly, pointing an accusing finger at the stoic boy. Itachi facepalmed. Shisui, be quiet. Naruto decided to copy Itachi's strategy, just tolerate Shisui's antics before his hair got prematurely gray. He cleared his throat. Hokage-sama is coming soon. Do you need more time to experiment with the seal? Would you like me to explain how it works again? He asked in a solemn tone. Itachi nodded. Maybe we should wait for Hokage-sama and the seal master, that way you won't have to repeat it later. Oh, I guess that would be good. Naruto agreed with a nod. Shisui titled his head to the side, curiously eyeing the stack of tags on the wooden stump that Naruto used as a table. His eyes were drawn to ball-shaped bomb with seal array and kanji for Hikari on it. Hey Naruto-chan, you didn't explain that tag to us. It's a new flash tag, right? He pointed at the flash bomb. Naruto shook his head fervently. Don't even think about it, Shisui-senpai. He warned the cheerful Uchiha, I have yet to test that flash bomb properly, and I don't want anyone, especially Jujutsu users like you, to be blinded by the end of the day. He shuddered mentally. Maybe inventing that flash bomb was not the best idea, but Kurama was very adamant about it, in case they ran to that bastard Uchiha who controlled him again. Shisui blinked when he saw Itachi scoop the 3 small round bombs and hand it to Naruto. You better keep it with you then before my dear cousin gets any ideas. The onyx-eyed shinobi muttered. Oi. Naruto sweat dropped as he put the bombs back to his backpack, both of them ignoring Shisui's indignant shouts. Thank you, Itachi-senpai. It's better to be safe than sorry. Then he turned to Shisui, and I told you to keep it down, cousin. Itachi said in chiding tone. I am older than both of you. Shisui reminded them. Naruto's eyes widened in faked shock. You are. I keep forgetting that myself. Itachi admitted, his voice devoid of emotion, but the slight shake of his shoulders gave away his mirth. He certainly didn't act his age, Naruto-kun. Shisui moaned, great. Now there are 2 smart asses I have to deal with. Shisui, mind your language. Itachi chided him, you're the one who called him Naruto-chan, and yet you use such language around him. The curly-haired Uchiha pouted, I know. Shisui huffed, Sasuke-chan is my favorite cousin now, and you're the new least favorite cousin. Right under Tekka. Shisui exclaimed triumphantly. Itachi nursed his throbbing cranium. Shisui. Of all people, he put him below the Tekka. Their cousin, who was 5 years older, but just recently promoted as a chunin. He had been glaring daggers at them since the last exam because Shisui's team gave Tekka's problem in 2nd round, and on the 3rd round Itachi defeated him in less than 10 minutes. Uchiha prodigy or not, Tekka's pride was severely crushed in being defeated by a 10-year-old kid. Yeah. Tekka. That Tekka. Shisui howled. Shisui. Itachi said in berating tone. The cheery Uchiha looked really happy, boasting that Itachi was below this Tekka person, maybe a stuck-up cousin of theirs. And for once Itachi looked really insulted by the arrangement. HMHM. Ha ha ha. Both Uchiha stopped as they stared at Naruto. The blonde Jinchuriki was laughing, his eyes closed, but they could see a glimmer of bright azure under golden eyelashes that shone with delight. Naruto hunched over as holding his stomach, his lips curved up to a wide grin as he tried to keep his laughter in control, but light chuckles still escaped him. Ha ha. Naruto cleared his throat, flushing a bit red on his cheeks. Sorry. The next thing he knew, Shisui had glomped him. Gosh, it's like seeing the mini Itachi losing his composure. Shisui cackled mischievously, lifting Naruto up enthusiastically, earning a yelp from the blonde. How see you? His sentence was cut short by a kick on his face. Gah. Naruto didn't know what possessed him, but he had acted on instinct. The moment someone he still dubbed a stranger went too familiar and had gone as far as hugging him, he kicked said person. And then he ran to the only familiar person nearby and tried to hide. He froze when he realized what he had done, and wondered if Shisui would be angry. Unexpectedly Shisui burst to a fit of laughter. Oh my god, Itachi. He is hiding behind you. He is shy. Itachi looked at Naruto, who looked ready to curl up to a ball, and decided he had to save the younger boy from further unintentional humiliation by Shisui. I think that's enough from you, don't tease him, Shisui. You know who he is, and how villagers treat him. Shisui stiffened at the reprimand. He is not used to someone he just met getting overly familiar with him. Not to mention hugging him, Itachi added on his mind. He remembered before their conversation, Naruto was very skittish around him, and that he had to approach the boy with caution. Shisui looked apologetic as he crouched down, so his eyes were in Naruto's level. I am sorry, Naruto-chan. Bad habit of mine. Naruto titled his head to the side as he contemplated what the Uchiha said. He nodded slowly. I am sorry for overreacting too, Shisui-senpai. Even so, he was still unwilling to leave his comfort zone, namely behind Itachi's legs. Why was his paranoia was eating at him this much? God. Being cautious was one thing, paranoia was making him crazy. He rolled his eyes inwardly when Kurama told him that if being paranoid could get him to live for another day, it was worth it. Kurama had almost zero concern regarding quality of his host's life, then again considering his life for the last few centuries. No problem, Naruto-chan. Shisui assured him, laughing at the sight of Naruto's strained smile that didn't match the throbbing vein on his temple. Naruto-kun. 2 Uchihas and 1 Uzumaki turned to see the Hokage approaching, smiling genially at them. Naruto's eyes were briefly drawn to a man who walked a few steps behind the Sandaime. He was probably in his mid to late 30s, a soft smile in his face made him appear mild-mannered, curly dark brown hair that parted on the left and eyes of the same color framed by a square glasses. He wore a black kimono and a white haori with kanji for fuin on his right and left sleeves. They bowed in respect to their village leader, Hokage-sama. The Hokage returned it with curt nod. I see you have become friends with Itachi and Shisui, Naruto-kun. The old Kage didn't even bother to conceal his relieved sigh, earning a puzzled look from the blond boy. Then he turned to the man who stood a few steps behind him. This is Aizen Sasuke, the current head of the Fuin division of Konoha. Naruto looked at the gentle-looking man. Rather than looking like a shinobi, he looked like a scholar. Then again, you could never judge a shinobi from her looks, most of the time at least. Aizen smiled genially at the blonde, leaning down so he could look at Naruto in the eye. Hello Naruto-kun, I am Aizen Sasuke and I will be your teacher. The young Jinchuriki tried his best to smile, that is if I can impress you with my meager skills, Aizen-san. He reminded the seal master modestly. Aizen shook his head, nonsense, I have seen your research notes and I am very impressed. Then he looked at the Sandaime. After studying those, I don't think I'm going to let anyone else get their hands on him. Sarutobi chuckled softly, eager to utilize the potential of a young talent Aizen. Itachi didn't know why, but his instincts told him to be wary of Aizen Sasuke. He had rarely seen anyone from the Fuin division because most of them spend a majority of their career in their headquarters to maintain Konoha's barrier and other fuinjutsu defenses that the Shodaime's wife left for Konoha. While they were an important part of Konoha's defense force, they were relatively weak compared to other divisions when it comes to physical strength. They mostly do paperwork like the Chunin secretaries at the Hokage Tower, which is why it is easy to consider them to be more like scholars than shinobi. Frontline seal masters were rare, and as rare as they were, the level of mastery of most of them was sketchy. Not everyone could juggle between research and combat practice, and attempting fuinjutsu in battle was quite a feat even as support. Konoha currently only had Jiraiya and Kakashi, and while a number of jounin may have a little above-average skill in the obscure art, none of them could use more fuinjutsu save Kuchiyose in the heat of battle. While Naruto with his Jinchuriki status was more suitable for the front lines, his lineage would make Konoha's upper echelon keep him in check. He was an Uzumaki, a clan with unparalleled skill in fuinjutsu. While Konoha could use Uzumaki Mito's legacy from generation to generation, no seal masters including Jiraiya were capable enough to modify, improve, or fix the seals. It was an untouchable work of art of the highest caliber in fuinjutsu. If there's anyone with potential to create seals of that caliber, it would be Uzumaki Naruto. He could see what Konoha wanted, and what the Hokage would do to give it to her. Itachi ran through the rocky ground, hopping from one rock to another. Shisui was ahead, and both of them were well aware that they were heading to a clearing. Shisui's grin was a signal that Itachi should start attacking. The prodigy jumped, his Sharingan came to life as 4 shuriken-shaped objects were held between his fingers. It looked like normal shuriken at a first glance, but it was made of ceramic, not metal, and the tips were not sharp but tapered, a rune carved from each tip to the center which held Hano engraving. He threw it with admirable precision, 2 of them passing Shisui, and as soon as both landed on the ground the seal carved on it glowed briefly before cross-shaped fire sprouted from its tips, forming a wall of fire. Whoa! Shisui yelped as he was trapped in a square formation of Katan no Jujika Fuin, fire element cross seal. The older Uchiha grinned as he backed away from the fire only to stop on his tracks the moment another wall of fire erupted and blocked his escape route. Shisui shunshined away from the cage of fire with ease and reappeared 10 feet away from his original position. His Sharingan eyes widened as he bent backward to avoid another of the same seal-carved projectile which was this time already active as it cut through the air. Shisui could feel the intense heat on the tip of his nose as he missed the flaming current of the projectiles by 2 inches as they wheezed past him. The Sandaime smiled bemusedly at the two Uchiha. It seemed that they enjoyed their fiery spar. Then again, the Uchiha were always a clan of pyromaniacs, his sensei used to tell him. That's enough. Itachi. Shisui. Shisui seemed unsatisfied at cutting the experiment short, but Itachi shot him a warning glance. The two Uchiha walked back to where the spectators of the spar sat, under an adenium tree which was the only tree that grew in that training ground. Aizen Sasuke clapped a few times, a gentle smile firmly in place. That's prodigious, as expected of the Uchiha clan. Naruto-kun only told you how to activate the seal and its functions, but you figured out how to apply it in battle yourself. Itachi nodded. Thank you for your kind words, Aizen-dano. The last seal I used. Katan no Jujika Fuin seems very useful to corner opponents and can be used as a surprise attack. He turned to Naruto as he fished out the last shuriken-shaped device from his pouch. Its design makes it convenient to use, but Naruto-kun, why it's made of ceramic? He asked curiously, though he was sure it won't break since Naruto used durability seals on it too. Naruto sighed at that. Well, for one, I am no smith and I don't have that kind of money to purchase customized shuriken from a blacksmith. Aizen nodded in understanding. I see. Is it possible to make this seal work for other elements? Naruto looked thoughtful as he contemplated the query. Probably. He decided. I asked Itachi-senpai since these seals would work better for ninja with fire affinity. I can make this seal to be general, so what comes out would be the user's affinity. Though not for earth, water may still work, but it's easily more applicable for fire, wind, and lightning. He shook his head. That's only in theory though. The Hokage nodded in approval. How about the other seals you used? Itachi-kun. Shisui-kun. Shisui titled his head to the side as he fished out a tag from his pouch. This one. He glared at Itachi. Made my feet stick to the ground, very good for trapping unless you face an earth element ninja. He eyed his bare feet in distaste, though if it only get to our feet, anyone can pull lizard-style escape. Itachi shrugged. I have to say that while Shisui is correct, those who are caught unaware would be an easy target even for a few seconds. This seal, Gomjiman Fuin, sticky ground seal, is good, though the range is poor as it only works on a 3 feet radius from the seal. Naruto sighed at that. Actually it depends on how much chakra you put on it, though to be safe I put a limiter symbol on it so that it gets sticky enough to trap people in that small range and last longer. He informed them, it's not an elemental seal anyway, it's a stronger version of the tree climbing exercise on a seal. The old Kage muttered in an amused tone. So much room for improvement, especially since the ground looks the same after you applied the seal on it, so unless you have a Dojutsu to see chakra, you can't tell there's a trap. Aizen nodded in agreement. This seal works instantaneously the moment it touches the ground, you don't have to stick it, and it's reusable too. He eyed the tag. Most of us instinctively move with a chakra boost, thus any body parts where chakra is focused would stick to this like magnet. The blonde boy nodded. I recommend it for trap use, but it needs a lot of chakra to last more than few minutes. But it won't be a problem once someone is trapped in its range. The seal would be powered by the captive's chakra. Naruto informed them, speaking of the poor range, I can provide you one with wider range, but you need more chakra to make it sticky and last longer until it catches your opponent. He muttered as he rummaged through his backpack, and here is the last one I have for today. He muttered and pulled out a flash tag. This one is a flash bomb, but it can last more than 5 minutes and comes in 7 colors. No. He shook his head at the look Sandaime shot him. It's not for pranking. We have to use sunglasses to use it for sure. Shisui quipped with a grin. He was referring to Dojutsu users in general. And a warning that it's not to be used in anywhere near the Uchiha and Hyuga compounds. I concur. Itachi drawled. Sarutobi smiled at that. It seemed Naruto was still a prankster at heart. I will get my Anbu and Oinen to test it. If it works effectively, I would want that for them. Naruto wisely didn't ask how they're going to use it, he just hoped he would never find out if any missing nin that ends up blind because of it. Of course Hokage-sama. He bowed in respect, earning a sad look from Sandaime that disappeared the moment he raised his head. Sarutobi cleared his throat. Aizen has voiced his interest in your talent, and I have seen it myself, what you could do with modifying basic seals and simple concepts such as the tree climbing exercise. He pulled a red scroll with golden trimming and the Konoha symbol and handed it to Naruto. You deserve it, Naruto-kun, he said cordially as Naruto accepted the scroll with awe and thinly veiled nervousness. Congratulations, you passed with flying colors. The blonde Jinchuriki held the scroll with trembling hands. While he was confident of his skills, he was still in disbelief that he at last gained the acknowledgement he longed for. Thank you, Hokage-sama. He bowed in respect to the old Kage, then turned to Aizen. It's an honor to learn your art, Aizen-san. I will do my best as your student. Aizen smiled genially. I am looking forward to it, Naruto-kun, and call me Shursho from now on. Hi, Shursho. Naruto obeyed readily. Naruto, Kurama called from the depths of his mind. Yes, Kurama. His bijou would rarely be the first to attempt a conversation. I don't trust this man at all. Kurama growled. I see. Naruto chuckled inwardly. I will be careful, I promise. He glanced to his back, where he could see Itachi's eyes had narrowed at Aizen only to gaze back to him. He smiled reassuringly to Itachi, then nodded. You're not the only one, my friend. Bah. Kurama snorted in disgust. March 7th, 7 years after Yondaime's death. Uzumaki Naruto graduated from the academy to be apprenticed under Aizen Sasuke, which marked as a significant turning point in his life.